A year ago, I barely used AI in my role as Deputy Principal. Now it handles over 50% of my leadership and teaching administrative workload. Because when we compare traditional teaching methods and planning structures to Claude AI excels in three specific tasks every educational leader and teacher must master. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to set up Claude for maximum performance, cover its most impactful features for both classroom and leadership tasks, and of course, dive into real world examples that are giving massive results right now. So let's get started. Now, before we jump straight into our first feature, we want to quickly just make sure we're set up. So once you've gone onto Claude and you can sign in, now you can get a free account or you can get a professional. Now it's about $35 a month. But if you go into your settings, you then go into profile and you want to scroll down, you'll see that these options should be enabled. Just make sure you double check that. And what makes this really good, you actually can integrate your Google Drive. So you can directly link sources basically into your Drive as you go. Now, if you're more comfortable with prompts, you could turn off the prompt examples, but at the moment, you can just leave it on for now. That is the basics. So let's jump into our first feature, artifacts for lesson planning. Now, artifacts can be used in all different more complex cases. Unlike ChatGPT, where you basically put in a prompt into your field and then away you go, this can actually edit in real time. So let's go through a real example. I'm going to paste in a prompt here because I need to create a lesson for time management for my Year 10 Timber class. Now, this is a pretty simple prompt. I'm just giving it a bit of an information what I want. Now, as you can see, it's created a marking rubric. It's given me examples. Now, if I scroll right back to the top, we can see it's 60 minutes because I didn't specify the time, but I've given it the grade. I've told it the outcomes or the syllabus that I want it to refer to. It can give me some sort of framework by learning objectives and success criteria, bit of prep, and then we go into the lesson activities. Now, I've given it a pedagogy framework, a lesson framework, so it's already using the 4Cs processes, which is fantastic to see. Now, I want to move away from, say, using a Gantt chart straight off the bat. I want to understand what is time management. How do we chunk and block things down? How do we bucket our sort of things into three areas of planning, production, and finishing? So there are different ways, but we can just look at refining this to make sure it's going right. So I've just given it a prompt. This is great. However, just adjust the first task to include group brain dump, such as using a post-it note race or a collaboration on the topic. Now, as you can see, it's actually giving me that framework. So divide class up into 4 to 5 students. Each student gets post-it notes and the groups are going to do these things. Now, that is so much better, but essentially look at the panel on your right. This is what we call an artifact, where you can have a really detailed lesson and you can prompt and it can actually adjust as you go. Rather than having to recreate, it just tweaks the specific areas that you need to change. Pro tip, just make sure you're using reflective prompting. What does that mean? You can, if you're getting stuck, you can ask it to give you some clarifying questions to get better responses. Let's jump into that second feature. Now, projects for curriculum planning and mapping. Now, projects are unreal. All right, now the second feature we want to dive into. This is the game changer. It really actually heavily reduces your workflow. So if we jump over to Claude again, we hover, we can go to projects, and that will get you access. Now, you can create a project. Project is your personal knowledge bank. Now, if I go to the strategic planning, we can have a look. What is a project? A project is your personal knowledge bank, what you're going to consistently reference over and over and over again. And this can be used for different avenues: content creation, lesson planning, strategic leadership. So that's why I wanted to jump into this, my example just here. If you look at, titled it, Project Improvement, this is a private project, and I've got all the strategic planning documentation that goes through the frameworks and how do we do it, and the specific skills that a leader would need to know, understand how to do this and how to do this well. This would usually take executive teams weeks to go through if they were having to build that knowledge up to begin with and then evaluate where they are and where they want to go. So once you've got a project knowledge bank, you can actually give it a project instruction, which is your tone, what is its key core feature, and you can actually just give it some indication of where you want to go. Now, this is fantastic because you can create straight in here. So I can go into any of my old sort of projects, and you can see I've basically given it project files, and it's going to go down and give me a list of steps on what is going on, and I've given it a PL plan, and away we go. Now, this is super cool because basically if we go back into the Start Anew and you want to create a new information based on an old project, you can just click Select Project. Now, you can choose from your most recent, or you can just type in, so planning, there it is. Then you can give it a task that you are actually wanting to. With the projects, you can basically create a knowledge bank, and then you can consistently reference it. This means Claude can create consistency in your teams. Now, you can share these projects with others if they're using Claude as well, but this is where we can really tailor our strategies, but keeping consistency through our procedures and our practices. Now, this third feature is interactive analysis and creation of data, charts, different kinds of visuals. Now, we can do a simple thing like this where I've gone ahead and I've given it a role. So you're an expert educational leader in data analysis, provide key insights in the data that's shown, identify any trends and improvement and strength, areas for improvement and strength. Now, it gives me a bit of information on how to do this. You can upload a CSV file, Excel file, other sorts of data, share directly in the conversation, and then we can then go into what are we specifically looking at. Now, I'm specifically looking at HSC trends over the last 3 years. I gave it 3 different data sets, and then I've asked it to go through and analyze the key metrics. You can see that there's been a significant trend upwards from 22 to 24. Proportion of band 5s achieved steadily increased for 24.48% to 36.4%. Now, without knowing these data metrics to be accurate, you could believe it at face value. You just got to double check that what you're getting out from Claude is actually accurate, and you can cross-reference, cross-check with other AIs, or you could just ask it to double check the data. Now, it's really important that you don't just believe it, because you have to have the expertise to visualize and understand this data to begin with. How to rapidly reduce your time in the analysis sections. Now, the cool thing about this, so you can see I'm just keep breaking it down, identify key insights for like state, average, and so forth, and it breaks it down for us. And you can see when it creates these charts, and it can indicate through an actual interactive graph what's performing above state, what's performing below state at the moment, distribution of courses against state, and looking at standard deviations and Z-scores, and just making sure that your analysis is really deep, but it's speeding it up, that process. Now, you can look how Claude is creating those clear visuals for leadership metrics. You can identify team patterns and dynamics and suggest strategies for intervention and going forward. Now, there's a pro tip. If you want to see more interactive charts, you need to include interactive dashboard in your prompt, and that will actually create these charts even in more detail. Here, and you want to grab my free AI Teacher Toolkit. This isn't just another resource. It's cutting down my planning time by 80%. I can create engaging content in just minutes and not hours, and I'm able to scale my impact across leadership and teaching roles. So just click the link in the description to download your copy. So let's recap. We've learned about artifacts and how we can streamline our lesson creation. PD development doesn't really matter. You're just content development through artifacts and just adjusting in real time. We've looked at projects, how you can maintain curriculum and leadership alignment by creating a knowledge bank of your resources and your skill sets to actually consistently reference as you go. And then we've looked at interactive analysis of improved outcomes at all different levels, looking at data creation and analysis through charts and interactive graphs. Effort equals results. Remember, with the right AI tools, your results will magnify exponentially. I'm Vaughn Littlejohns. If you've liked this content, just hit like and subscribe for later, and I'll see you in the next one.